Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. We have reached the third week. We have the midterm tomorrow coming up. So as we wait for people to sign in, it's kind of a short week for everybody. Since we have no school on Friday at Oyster River. Yay! So hopefully there'll be some openings for drive times for people to grab a couple hours. Still have a few of you that have not driven that often, or I've got I think one or two of you haven't driven at all. So we're going to try to grab some time. Remember, setting up drive times is your responsibility, so try to be on top of it, because like I said, it goes quickly, and I just checked my email before I came on. I had another sign up for the next session, is that your class is small, so I have lots of openings from 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. All day Saturday, although this Saturday I'm not driving a full Saturday. But once that new class starts, they're going to be sitting in front of their computer just like you are right now, and they're going to be asking and requesting, drive times. So this is your time to kind of pack it in. And there's going to probably be some overlapping of classes. It always happens, but I want to try to help you out if you want to get your license in a short period of time. As I had mentioned last week, I'm just a little bit behind. We're going to finish up the section on speed at the end of tonight's class. We're going to get right into owning a vehicle. What is titling, registration, inspection? What are some of the restrictions on your license? What to expect when you go to the DMV to get your license. So we're going to talk about that, because I know I have questions on the midterm on that. Tomorrow's class will probably be half of the class at the beginning will be on parking, and then we're going to do the midterm. I'm going to save driving emergencies for sometime later on the second half of the program. There will be a longer video that we're going to watch tonight that has questions to be filled in. So I'm going to ask you to do that at the end of tonight's class. You can find, I'll put the sheet on Facebook. And for the two of you that do not have Facebook, I will send you a link to it via your text messages. So we're going to take a look at what to do when you're in a vehicle and the driver is a little bit out of control, how to speak up, what are some of the negative consequences of a crash with speeding, how do you deal with people that are injured, and in this case, in the video that you'll see, there are actually a few girls that passed away. It is related to a high school sporting team that had some kind of a get-together after practice, and they were out driving too fast, and they had a car crash. And it's going to talk to the parents. You're going to see at the very end what happens in the court case. So I want you to realize your driving has consequences. So if you do act up behind the wheel of the car, there will be consequences through the court system. So we're going to take a look at that. Let's see. Oh, the videos. I'm not going to actually show them on YouTube here. I did have someone make a request that I don't show it. I mean, if you really want me to show it, then I guess I will. But I'm going to presume that you just wanted to make sure that I saw it. And really, you guys, for the crop of what I had for videos, this is the best class group-wise videos that we had. And I love, love, love how you got your parents involved. And you did a really good job bringing in some statistics and persuasion of why wearing a seatbelt is beneficial. Had a good one on helmets too. So we had a wide range of things, but I don't want to put it on YouTube just in case you don't want people seeing you on. So I understand that. I get it. I don't mind being on camera. I make a fool of myself all the time. So I'm not worried what people put on the comments after class. And I do get comments every once in a while from people all over. And by the way, if you do like what we're talking about in class, if you hit the like button or make comments on the YouTube channel, it does help. I am trying to grow a YouTube channel. I know that sounds kind of funny, but it'd be nice. I mean, I've been putting out some money for a microphone, a camera. It'd be nice eventually if I could find a way to maybe make this somewhat profitable where I can actually help pay for some of the equipment. So I got a huge light right over here that's giving me this, what I think, quality picture, so you're not looking at me in the dark. Well, let's get right into our first subject, which is ownership of a vehicle. If you have your state manual ready by your side, what I'd like you to do is to turn to page 4. And even though I'm not going to be going paragraph by paragraph on everything that they've covered here in the manual, I will be covering it in my PowerPoint here. And I really kind of get in a little bit deeper than what the state has. And remember, if you ever have questions, please put them in the comments or text me what the comment or question that you have. I've got my phone right here in front of me. So I see there's 4 of you here, and then there's 2 of you there. So we've got about 7 people, so we're only missing 1 person right now. So let's get into owning a vehicle. This is a big time for you. Turning 16, getting a license, possibly owning a vehicle. It's kind of a rite of passage. I mean, we all dream of the time when we get our license, where we can go where we want to go with who we want to be in the car with. So now it's here. So what do I need to do in order to not only obtain my driver's license, but if I do get a car, what are my requirements to put it on the road legally and safely? So let's take a look. First thing I want you to write down in your notes is driving is not a right. Okay, just because you're 16, just because you're enrolled in driver's ed, does not mean that I have to pass you. Doesn't mean that the state has to give you a license. So you are meeting criteria in order to obtain your driver's license. You are doing your 30 hours of classroom. You're doing, remember, your observation is going to be done with your parents. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But observation with your parents, and you're doing your driving with me. Once that is completed, then I can sign off on a certificate that I think that you are ready to go for your driver's test. But the test is going to be what's indicating whether you're, oh, there's an echo? Okay, thanks. I'm going to try to get out of this and then come back in. So let me get out. Okay, let me get this down just a little bit. All right. Let's see if there's still an echo. If there's still an echo, you got to let me know. Sometimes when I switch over in programs, it does that. So driving is not a right, it is a privilege. So what I want you to write down is that the state requires you to get a driver's test. So I written road. If you pass that, you now become legal. The other thing that you need to remember is that because you are under the age of 18, your parents have the right to take away your license. Okay, it went away. Great. If any reason you're fooling around behind the wheel of the car, you're getting bad grades, You're hanging with the wrong crowd. Your parents, after you get your driver's license, they can contact the DMV and actually have your license suspended. It's suspended through the computer system. Now, you still have your physical license, but you're not legally able to drive. So just remember, until you're the age of 18, your parents have a lot of control over you. So the manual basically just covers the basic laws, rules, and regulations that the state wants you to know. It by no means covers everything that you need to know. So we're only kind of skimming the top. There's so much more, and you really don't have to get too much deeper than what we're doing, but it is important to understand that there are going to probably be times when you're faced with a situation like with a sign or driving on a particular roadway, you're wondering if you're doing the right thing. And you're thinking, I don't remember this from driver's ed, or I don't think we covered it. And there's a good chance maybe we didn't. So we're just hitting the top rules and regulations that you need to know. It's important to practice safe driving all the time. If there's anything that I really want you to take away from our driving, is that I really want you to get used to good position on the road, checking your mirrors, making sure you're close with your speed, good following distance, making sure it's a good stop. All these things are, I know probably seems like I'm coming, down pretty hard on you, but if you practice this with me, it's going to be so simple to go for your driving test because you know that they're going to be evaluating you on these things. So, and hopefully that will carry over once you do get your license, you're basically out on your own. Now, the two terms that they have up here on the slide, suspension and revocation, what does it mean? Those two terms deal with your license being taken away. One is more severe than the other. So in your notes, I want you to write down, suspension is a short period of time, usually less than a year. It's like a slap on the wrist. So you'll lose your license. And by the way, you can write this down. It's in the manual. It's on page 5. There are 3 time frames that they're going to be taking your license away. Your first offense is going to be for 20 days. Your second offense will be for 45. And your third offense, or subsequent, 5th, 6th, 7th, is going to be for 90. Right? That's important to know because you are under your youth operator's driver's license. That's going to stay in effect while you're under the age of 21. So no one wants to be walking for 20 days. And by the way, that 20 days starts when Concord receives your license. It's not when you mail it. So you'll be getting your ticket. They're going to request that you send in your license. They're going to send you a letter, send in your license. So it's when they get it. And then when they send it back, then you are able to drive. So 20, 45, 90. First, second, third offense. Revocation, write down, is a longer period of time, usually over a year. And it's more difficult to get it back, which means you may have to do other things. Like you may have to renew your license, take a eye test, written test, road test, depending on how long it's revocated. Usually revocation are more serious crimes like drinking and driving, hitting a pedestrian where there's injury or death. They're going to take your license for a long period of time. So they may want, like insurance needs to be shown proof of coverage. So that may be a requirement. So remember that driving is related to your attitude. I find some of the best drivers are those that are always asking questions and looking, what can I do better? How was my speed today? How was my position in my parking? Am I using my mirrors enough? If you're thinking about what you need to do to get better, you will get there eventually. All right? And I think I was talking to someone today, is that everybody else or everybody that watches you drive, whether it be me, your mom, your dad, the state, everyone's going to have a slightly different perspective of what constitutes a safe and a good driver. And ultimately, you're going to have to make that decision when you're left by yourself. So take everything that you hear, and you're going to use a little bit of everybody, probably. Okay. And remember, it's a sense. What's fast for somebody may be slow to somebody else. But you've got to remember, too, whatever they're telling you, fast, slow, position on the roadway, you've got to match that up to what you know. You've got to know what the speed limit is. You've got to know what is a good position on the roadway is. So remember, driving is a complex task, and it needs your full attention. Do not be distracted by your friends. Do not be distracted by phone calls, music. It's only going to show your mistakes out on the road more evidently. All right. There are certain locations in the state where you can go for your license. There are only 19. Most of the time, Concord is the hub. That's where the Department of Motor Vehicles, Department of Safety is. During COVID, they started all licensing in Concord, and now they're doing it at the substations, the other 19, or 18, I should say. You can go wherever you want, but I do believe, so write this down, this is all new, and I'm going by what other students have told me, so this is not in the manual, so this is really relevant to today and what we're going through with licensing. You have to go online. So write this down. You must go to the Department of Safety online, New Hampshire Department of Safety. Look at the tab that is going to indicate driver's licensing, and you're going to have to fill out a form. And then they're going to call you and let you know when you can come for your test. So they are scheduling. Now, you can't do this until you receive your certificate from me. So how do you get your certificate? You have to do your 10 hours. That could be right about the time we finish up class, or it could be in November. But even though we're finishing up on the 22nd and you get a good score in the final, doesn't mean that you completed driver's ed. It means you completed the classroom. So until the classroom and the driving is completed, you have no certificate, and you really can't schedule a time for your driver's license. This is what I've heard on the street. Now, you may even know better than I, because you probably have been talking to some of your friends that I've had in driver's ed, or friends that have gone to other driving schools, to find out what the time frame is. I believe it's around 2 weeks right now. From the time that you contact them to the time that you go for your driving test, it's 2 weeks or maybe slightly more. It used to be like a month. So they're doing a better job. Now, here's what everybody asks me. Can I get tested on Saturday or Sunday? No, you cannot. They're only open Monday through Friday. All right? So your parents will probably have to take some time off, because they could say Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. So you may even be able to put in, I haven't looked at it, times that you don't want to go for your driver's test. Just know that that may push it right out, because if everybody's waiting till their remote classes are done, it could be a little bit of a long wait. The fee to get your driver's license is $50. 2 forms of ID. One should be your original birth certificate, and the other could be like a passport, could be a social security card, could be your school ID. But you need to bring both. Okay. The other thing here you don't need to know, this is more for people that are coming from out of state. When you get your license, it's good for 5 years. And the other good thing to remember is that once you're done driver's ed and you go for your driver's license, you never have to take a driver's test again if you stay in the state of New Hampshire. Now, if you move to another state, they may require you to do either a written test or maybe both. But if you stay in the state of New Hampshire, you just keep renewing on a 5-year cycle. And it's been $50 for, or at least 20 years. So I would not be surprised sometime soon that you may see an increase in what they charge. So your license is good for 5 years. When you first get your driver's license, you cannot drive with more than one non-relative in the vehicle for your first 6 months. You can have as many relatives, but remember, they have to be belted. Now, a lot of people say, well, how do they know? that I'm still in my 6 months? I don't know. I don't know what they ask you if they pull you over. I don't know what the consequences. I'm sure it's a ticket, but I don't know what the fee schedule is. I just wouldn't push it. Personally, I think it's more liability. I don't think you're going to get in a heap of trouble if you do it. But if you go too fast and you get in a car crash and you've got people in your car that shouldn't be there, now that's liability. Now the insurance company is involved. That's when you're going to probably have some serious trouble. So that's why I wouldn't personally do it. There is a curfew from 1 in the morning till 4. I'm sure your parents have told you nothing good happens between those hours. So why are you out late at night or early in the morning like that? So don't drive. Now, the funny thing is that with practice driving, let's say that you were going on a trip and your parents didn't leave until like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. I don't know. You were going to your lake house. You could be driving with your parents at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that's perfectly legal right now. So it's kind of odd. But once you're out on your own, they do put that restriction. The application can be found online since we're doing everything online now because we don't want a lot of people at the DMV. Most of these forms can be found. I've already talked about the fee. Your parents have to sign off on your license. That is the DSMV 38 form. The driver's ed certificate is what I am going to be giving to you, and your driver's log. I think this is going to be the biggest hang up for at least half of you, is that I've been asking you, have you been driving with your parents? And yeah, I've got, 10, 20. That's fine. I understand. It's tough. Everybody's busy. But once we're done, and I've taught you what I can teach you, it's going to be a long time if you only got 20 hours and at the end of the program, you still got another 20 to do with your parents. You're looking at, and I'll tell you this, okay? This is to think about this. We are entering the winter months. If your parents are reluctant to drive with you now when it's basically light out and nice, wait till it starts getting dark at 4:30 and there's ice and there's snow and snowbanks. Your driving isn't going to increase, it's going to decrease. So this is when you need to make hay and get a lot of driving in. And you got the holidays. Between Thanksgiving and New Year's, everybody's busy. So you're looking at like January, February, March, and then you're going to probably go for your driver's test in the spring, and you're going to go, how do you back into a parking spot? What does a blue sign mean? You're going to start forgetting all these things that we've been talking about and learning about. So this is why it's supposed to, hopefully, everything kind of, accumulates or it culminates at the end of the program, that you're ready to go. I'm not going to really get into this, but we are getting into the Real ID, which means in October 1st, basically a year from now, a year from this week, anybody getting a driver's license will need to have the Real ID, which is a different type of certification on your license. And they need more documentation when you go for your license, more than the two. All right? So it's going to be a little bit more involved. But right now, you could try to get it, I believe. I don't know if they've stopped doing this for a while, but because most people aren't flying. A passport can be used to get on a plane or to get into federal buildings. But what they're trying to look is making every state in the country go to Real IDs. So getting into secure places is just going to be a little bit quicker because everybody's going to have the same documentation. So that's what we're trying to do. So this is what it looks like. And the Real ID is going to have that circle star. I think in the back of your manual, I don't know. Maybe I've got an older one. I thought I saw on a manual that it had a picture on the back about the Real ID. I just don't have it on the one that I've got. So your practice driving, it doesn't have to be your parents. Just remember someone that's 25 years of age or older. staying in the front seat with you, but staying within the borders of New Hampshire. Now, I know some of you have been driving out of state. You just didn't know. But once again, liability wise, make sure you don't find yourself in a situation where you have a fender bender or a crash and the insurance companies get involved. Then the state gets involved, and then it gets to be a real hassle. Because every state has different laws concerning learning to drive. Like Maine and Massachusetts have permits. I'm not sure about Vermont. New Hampshire is just proof of age. So that's pretty simple. Anybody coming to New Hampshire that's young, as long as they're 15 and a half and have proof of age, and someone 25 or older can technically legally practice drive here. But Massachusetts, you need a permit. I do know that. And you need someone paying attention. They can't be reading on their phone or taking a nap. They've got to be able to help you out. And your observation, I should talk about that right now. I have a form that I can give you a hard copy, or I can send it to you but via text. But I want you to, you can do it now, meaning you can send it in to me tonight, tomorrow. Basically what it means is that while your parents were driving, they pointed out some things about driving. You asked them some questions. They answered those questions. And you've done 6 hours of that. Now, I know, you've been observing your parents drive your whole life because they're the legal driver and you're not. But the state put in that observation thing probably about 20 years ago. And it's been a hard thing for driving instructors to schedule people to sit in the back to watch other drivers drive. So to be honest with you, I'm kind of happy that I don't have to do that right now with you, because right now it's hard enough scheduling you driving times. It's more complicated when you throw in the observation. So having your parents do it has been a great blessing for me. We talked about the two forms of ID. Make sure your vehicle's in good driving condition. So let me just talk about your vehicle that you bring. Try to bring a vehicle that you have driven quite a bit. Try not to bring a vehicle that is new to you. Like I've heard some students, I don't like my parents' cars, but my grandmother's going to let me drive hers. Well, how many times have you driven it? Well, I haven't. Well, you may not drive your best if you take it to your driving test, because there could be a problem with the brakes where you're used to your mom's car and now you're going 3 feet beyond your stop line, or you're not keeping up to the speed because you don't know how much pressure to put on the gas pedal, or it turns a little bit differently because of the turning radius. So the car that you practice on should be the car you take for your driver's test. Remember, it's your vehicle. Your vehicle is what's being used. It's not a vehicle that's with the state. They do they do not give you a car to use. So let's talk a little bit more about your car. I would clean the inside. I'd vacuum it. I'd wash my windows on the inside. I'd make sure that it smells relatively clean. There's nothing worse than for a driving examiner to get into a car and there's empty, water bottles, and your parents smoke or whatever, and there's a film on the inside of the windshield. That's not a good place that they want to be in for, the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So make a good impression, not only with your vehicle, but with you. Get a good night's sleep. Kind of dress neatly. Be polite when they speak to you. Strike up a conversation. First impressions go a long way. I think it's kind of cool with the YouTube channel that I have here, because all of you were in class. You got to see me, and you got to see me talk about my vehicle, what it looked like, what the instruments, even before you probably got to drive it. So hopefully that made you a little bit more at ease when we did get behind the wheel for the first time, because I looked somewhat familiar. I sounded somewhat familiar. Do you need to talk to him? No. I mean, I would talk to him just to kind of lighten the situation a little bit. They're human, you know. They're going to, have good days and bad days, so maybe you get a sense of what they're up to. And by the way, people often ask me is what would be the best time to go for a driver's test if you could schedule? You may want to write this down. Between 10 and 2. I think those are the best hours to go. Anything from 8 to 10, especially at Dover Point, you've got traffic, people going to work. You have more traffic between like 8 and 9:30, 10 o'clock than you do between 10 and 2. Same thing in the afternoon. Once people get out of work around, well, they only test you till about 4. So they're not going to bring you out at 4:35 because they're not there. And we'll talk more about that. So going when they're, in the middle of their day, usually after lunch would be really good because they've already, had a bite to eat and relaxed a little bit. So just remember they are human. So that's the testing site in Dover. Make sure you read your signs. I've known a few people that went back to the testing site after their test. They were doing really, really well till they got back to the parking lot. And they tried to go in right here where it says do not enter. They never read the sign and they failed their test. Wouldn't that be a shame to do so well and then get right to the testing site and then fail? So make sure that you read your signs. Think about every little thing. So this is what it looks like at most substations. This is when I was in Concord. I had to do some paperwork. So I took out my phone and snapped some pictures. So getting your license. Have all your paperwork that we mentioned earlier tonight in order. All completed. Don't fill anything out when you're there. Have your $50. Have your forms of ID. We talked about planning out your day. When would be a good time to take the test. We talked about being rested, dressed, and clean the car. You're ready to go. It shows you mean business. It means that you want to get that license. Now, after they receive your paperwork, the guy will give you a number. Okay? And you'll wait and wait and wait. Now, the nice thing, because you're doing it on the computer, I believe you're not going to have to wait like you normally do. But if you take a look at the picture with the TV screen, that driving licenses was backed up 46 minutes and there are 11 people in front of you. So there's a couple testing examiners, probably 2 or 3. So that's why 11 isn't a huge number. In 46 minutes, not too bad. Okay, but you're gonna remember that's just to get into the car to go out driving again. So it's gonna take you an hour and a half to get the test, the road test done, and then to get your picture. So from the time that you hand them the paperwork that you've completed to the time that everything's done, on a good day could be an hour. On a bad day, it could be 3. So you're going to be there for a while. The driving test is broken up into 3 parts. This is why I want you to get your eyes tested if your eyes haven't been tested for a while. You need to be able to pass 20/30 in one eye or 20/40 in both eyes. If your eyes are not up to this standard, they're going to send you back to an eye doctor, optometrist, who will do the eye test, and then they will send you back to the state for your driver's test. You do not go on to the next 2 portions of the test. So everything is in chronological order. So if you pass or if you fail any part of the test, then you don't go on to the next step. So let's say you pass the eye test. Okay, now they're going to bring you to a computer room, sit you in front of a computer, and let you do the written test. You pass the written test, then you go out and you do your road test. Now, the question is, what happens if I pass the written test and I go out and drive, but I drive poorly and I fail the driving test? Am I going to have to start from scratch when I go back? No, you do not. You always pick up. You may want to write this down. You always pick up where you left off. So if you failed the road test, you go back to the road test and start there again. You don't start from the beginning. It's usually about 20 minutes. It's a skill test. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Here's the computer test. I was at a training, this has to be, 8 years ago, and they just started to use a computer that has a touch screen. It used to be a written test where you would actually write down your answers. It's all multiple choice, but you would circle your answers and they would have a key and then they would correct them. But now it's all computerized, kind of like what I'm doing. And by the way, I do know I've got some glitches in the sample test that questions that I have at the end of the chapter, and I am going to regrade accordingly. So don't be worried about any type of score that you get for these chapter review tests. It's basically just to see what your basic knowledge of the information that we've covered. But on your state exam, you have to score an 80%. So make sure you understand that. And on my final, the midterm tomorrow, and on the final, I wanted to see you close to an 80, okay? So here, I'm going to actually show you I took a video, and no, your parents, I just saw the question that, Julian, Massachusetts has parents in their cars, and I don't know why they do that, but New Hampshire does not. It's just you and the examiner. But in some states, yeah, you have a parent in the back. So here's the video of taking the test.
As you notice, there's a volume. There's a volume here on the right. We also have headphones that plug in. Everybody gather around. You can come stand back here as well if you can't see. And what it's going to do is it walks you through each individual screen, kind of prompts you to the next screen. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Now they're going to have
continue going to the next one. And what it does is it gives you 4 dates of birth.
Do you know which one it is?
No, I don't actually. You have to pick your date of birth to continue. So when you walk into our test room and you see 5 test stations, well, how do I know which one is mine? Well, number one.
I'll be right back, Jay.
Bill, I can get
What was that?
April 6, 94.
Okay.
694, that'd be the bottom one.
Thank you.
It tells you at the beginning that it's a 40-question test and that you need to get 32 to pass.
Is every question based on the manual?
No. It is
Did you
not.
hear that? Not
There are
every
a couple
question
of
is
questions
based on
in
the
there
manual,
that
so
are
it's from
required
these
in your
PowerPoints that I'm giving you.
curriculum that are in there that aren't in the manual.
And I know that Trooper O'Leary had stated that he had mentioned this to you folks in there. But we are getting some calls from people saying, this wasn't in the manual
Walking around your
when they have just
vehicle,
been to
making
driver's ed.
checks, all that stuff
And so
is
it's
not
very
in the
important
manual.
that you folks know
from the
that
textbook
it's
and from
not
what
just
I'm
the
giving
manual that they're tested on, it's your curriculum. So that is very important
And
that you
those
impart that
complaints are
information to your people.
Extremely few and far between, so it's not like it's an issue. It's just something that actually cropped up recently.
Do a sample test.
Yep, what you do is at the beginning of the test here, it gives you a choice, a sample test or begin test. And sample test, all that does is show you how the computer system works. So if you go ahead and hit sample test.
So don't be looking around the room to see how everybody else is doing.
It shows you a picture of a horse and asks you what it is. Pretty simple.
So that's the sample.
Here's
That's
the
what
great
they
part
give
about
you
this
to get
test.
things going.
When you pick an answer, it's going
So
to
you have
ask you to
choose it,
confirm
and then
that
you
answer.
confirm your answer. That way you
So
know.
there is absolutely no way you can come back and say, hey, listen, I hit C and A came out.
Yes,
If I didn't
can't
like
say
that
they
answer.
messed up.
You could hit no. There you go.
This might have to be recalibrated. We haven't used it that
This
much,
one hasn't
but
been used in a couple of
so,
months.
but it is the touch screen is usually instant.
Takes a second to catch up. That'll ask you to confirm your answer. Is that correct? And at this point, because it's just a sample, it's not going to tell you if you got it right or wrong. It's just so that you know where to touch the screen and what pressure to use, things like that. Go ahead, begin test.
Hey, take his license away.
Yep, it's good.
How about the volume?
Okay, this is a pretty simple question about what to do in case a pedestrian walks out in front of you. I'm not lying. This is a real question. stop and let the pedestrian go by. I mean, you should be able to answer that correctly right now. Some of these questions are simple,
Yep,
simple, simple.
recognized it. It'll just take a second. But as you go, it'll have your time at the bottom, and there's a lot of great features that were built in with this system. Number one, the quick pass fail, like I said, when you get to the point where you no longer need to continue whether you're passing or failing, it'll let you know. Skipping the question portion, if the power goes out, here's a great question. When this system stops, and we've had
Now
it
here's a
happen couple
question that we
times
covered
already,
the first week of
stops
class
the time, stops you at
about
that
checking
question.
around your
So the
vehicle.
power comes back
Okay,
on,
this is not
you
from
go
the
back to your
manual.
machine,
This
you
is
start
from what
with the
we
date of
covered
birth
in
all
class.
over again, and then as soon as you select the first question you left on, the time starts up again. And we've been doing this since we've had this system implemented here since April. I think we've had maybe 3 people time out on tests. It doesn't happen very often.
Can we get video?
So they give you 40 minutes. So a minute per question.
Yeah. Could we do that? All what, 2,000 different tests that you have?
You get the time.
My students need all the help they can get, Jay. Come on. You know what it was like, Jay. Come on.
I'm just afraid Gordon's going to end up by
It
losing his
recognizes
license.
it's just going
Well,
really
how do you
slow.
know it recognizes?
Because you can see the yes change.
Oh, I see.
Yep, it depresses it.
This sign,
Wow.
This is a.
You should know that sign after we did the sign quiz.
But you see, this
is
test
not an
has a lot
abacus.
more
They usually
visual aid
put
than
the
the written paper test.
I think people that don't pass the written test are really rushing through. If you take your time, this should not be that
To
complicated.
enlarge the picture so you can see it. If you actually touch any portion of the lettering on the screen, it makes that bigger as well.
For the visually impaired.
Right. So if you can't see to drive, we can make the lettering bigger for you.
We're going to have another workshop.
So you could make the picture larger.
So if you look at the bottom,
There is a
it's got 2 correct,
place
0
here that you
incorrect.
can actually hit a button
Tells you the number
to
of
have
correct
questions
you go.
read to you and the answers. So if you have a hard time reading, people that have some type of reading disability, they can have it all audible. So you can have headphones on like I do.
Got a lifeline, right?
If
3
you're,
lifelines.
Well, he's got 2. He can't phone a friend.
Well,
Exactly.
I told you at the beginning of the test, we have a screen that begins and says any study materials, any cell phone use, boom. And what we can do is, from the terminals up front where the clerks sit, we can suspend testing, cancel tests. We can do all kinds of things from there if we feel that there's something going on.
Okay, so you get an idea of don't have any phones with you because they're going to think that you're cheating. So you can't really bring them into the room, or if you sneak them in, they're going to think you're trying to get an advantage. So you don't want that to happen. Just to highlight a few things that they talked about, let me get out of here. You could skip a question. If you do not know the answer, put it to the back of the test. Remember, once you hit an 80%, so once you get 32 questions right, the test stops. My son was the last child that I had who did the driving test this way. My girls did it the written way. So they had to answer all 40 questions, and then they corrected it. But my son, when he went for his driver's license, he only had to answer 34 questions. Once he answered his 34th question, he got his 80%. So he only missed 2 questions. And by the way, when they give you a time limit, and they said not many people time out because you've got 40 minutes, the average time it takes a person to do this test, it's almost like the test that you do with me. Because when you do the test with me, I get to see how long it took you. So I get to see your score and how much time you spent. The average person on a 40-question test here to get their 80 is right around 11, 12 minutes. It flies. As you can see, some of the questions are really not that complicated. So people are, if you know your stuff, and you're able to get through it quite quickly. Now, this is your road test. Once you pass the written test, they're going to give you that piece of paper that's off to the right where it says no before you go. they're going to tell you to go out into the parking lot and put your car in one of the testing sites parking spaces. So they have parking spaces for people going out on their driver's test. So look for a sign indicated, placement of your vehicle. So they want you to read this. They're going to tell you to put it underneath your mirror. You're going to be tested on your ability to maintain your position within your lane. And I'm after you when you do this. Are you keeping a safe interval to the front, back, side of the vehicle? Can you make lane changes with giving warning, making your checks? Do you use the correct signal? And do you turn it off after? Some of you still have a problem turning your directional off in the driver's ed car. You're going to have stop signs, traffic lights, pedestrians, emergency vehicles. You're going to be turning left and right, and you're going to have to do at least one parking maneuver. We don't know which one, so you got to be ready with all of them. Sometimes I've known them to make you do two, so you'll go someplace and park, and then when you come back, you got to park. Now, it says 15 minutes. That's on a good day. It's closer to 20. Even that's not that long. And if you have any questions, please ask them before the exam begins. Now, once you're out in the car with them, can you still ask questions? Yes. Only questions on direction. Like, did you say turn at this street here on the left? They can't answer questions like, if you ask them, what is the speed limit? They can't answer that. Or, am I too close to the parked cars? They can't tell you. Should I start turning my wheel to get into the parking spot? They can't do that. These are questions that you're asking me, and I have no problem with that. But usually when we go out for our last two drives, we're going to do a review. And during the review, I'm going to kind of step back in my role and not be a person as an instructor, but as an examiner. And I don't carry this sheet with me. I do have it on my iPad. I've got a copy of it. But this is how they're grading you. So if you want to take a picture of this right now, or if you want me to send one to you at any point, I could send you a copy of this scoring sheet. And it may be kind of fun with your parents where they can kind of give you a score. But let me just talk about the three columns: needs improvement, poor, and failure. Anything that's blacked out, they can't fail you for. And by the way, under C, they cannot fail you for your grip of the steering wheel or how smooth you turn the wheel. Isn't that cool? They don't have a place to fail you. Now, don't get too excited. On the right side of that form, where it says G, turns left and right, too wide, too short, from the wrong lane, or ends in the wrong lane, guess what? If you don't grab the wheel the right way, but you make a bad turn, they're going to fail you on the turn, but not grabbing the wheel. So it's the grabbing the wheel that caused the bad turn, they're going to think. All right? But if you're driving straight and you've got one hand on the wheel, they really can't fail you. If you're making a decent turn into a parking spot and you just palm the wheel or do it with one hand, they really can't fail you. Now, they may go back over to G and say it needs improvement, but they don't have a place to fail you. Once you hit 21 points on the score sheet, you fail your test. If you get 20 points deducted, you still pass. If they take this form and they flip it over, they're looking for something to fail you on. So that's your scoring sheet. Once you pass, you go back and you get your license. They take your picture. You are all done. Let's go through some of these things relatively quickly here. There are other types of systems or classifications for your license. Just be familiar with just one of these. And the one that I want you to be familiar with is your operator's driver's license. That is a Class D 26,000 pound vehicle. That's what you're going to be driving. Later, if you want to get a motorcycle license or a scooter license or moped, all these things can have a special designation. Once you pass your operator's license, you do not have to take a written test with your motorcycle. All you're going to be doing is your practical driving test, and we'll talk more about that in another class. The only thing I want you to be familiar with here is corrective lenses, because some of you have glasses like I do. You're going to have a B restricted letter on your license. So every time that I drive, I have my glasses on. If I get caught driving without my glasses, I can be given a ticket. Mechanical aid, prosthetic aid, automatic transmission, outside mirror, all these things are for people that have some type of either disability or situation where they need added help in their driving. So they can't drive just any vehicle, but they have to drive vehicles that are equipped with these designations. Okay, we want people at their best, so they may have some of these. Now, I believe ignition interlock device is now Z. No, it's IID. No, I take that back. It used to be Z, and now they've gone with just the acronym IID, ignition interlock device. When we talk about alcohol and drugs, we'll get into that a little bit more. So that's the restrictions. Your license will run out 5 years from your date of birth when you get your license. The cost is $50 we talked about 2 months before your license expires. You're going to be sent a reminder in the mail about how to renew it. But it's your responsibility. Okay, so remember that. The state, if you move away and you didn't give them a new address, tough luck. You could be driving on an expired license. And by the way, driving on an expired license, it's like you don't have a license. They could arrest you for driving. You know, handcuff, put you in the cruiser. So make sure your license stays current. You do need to know this for the final, so write this down. Anyone driving a motor vehicle, New Hampshire must have with them a valid driver's license and registration. Your registration is kept in your glove compartment. Okay? Your registration is based upon who owns the vehicle, and we're going to talk about who owns the vehicle in just a moment. So license in your pocket with a wallet or a purse, and then registration in the glove compartment. Now let's talk about ownership of a vehicle. If you wanted to buy a car, let's just say you had $2,000 saved up and you're on Craigslist and you saw a car that you really, really like for $2,000. The owner that has the vehicle has a title, but now that he's selling it to you, you're going to be the new owner, so you have to get a new title. So write down in your notes that a title shows ownership of a vehicle. And to switch over one title to another person, it's going to cost you $25. And you need to go to the town clerk, so know that. So buying it on Craigslist, you would meet with the owner of the vehicle. He'd give you his title. He'd sign his name. You'd sign yours as being the buyer. He's the seller. You would date it. And then probably ask for a receipt that you paid $2,000 for the vehicle. Now, if you buy a new vehicle, like at an auto dealer, they have the title. So once you get the loan or pay for it outright, then they're going to give you the title. So if you do get a loan with the bank, you got to remember you are in ownership of that vehicle with the bank. You own part of the vehicle, the bank owns part of the vehicle. So until the bank is paid off, they keep the title. Okay, once the bank gets all their money for the vehicle, then the title is sent to you in the mail. And now you are the whole sole ownership of that vehicle. So this is what a title looks like. And over on the right-hand side, on the back, that's where the previous owner's signature is going to go. And then right below that is where your signature is. Make sure that everything is correct, because you can't be scribbling and, get a new, you're going to have to pay an extra $25 to get a new one if you really mess it up. So don't mess it up. And the odometer reading has to be put in there too, by the way. New Hampshire registration. Everybody that lives in New Hampshire has to register their vehicle in New Hampshire. If you live out of state, let's say some of the UNH students, you see a lot of cars from New York, Massachusetts, all over the place. They don't have to switch over to New Hampshire plates. They stay on their home state plates. Okay? But New Hampshire, you live in New Hampshire, you got to pay the city clerk your town fee, your resident tax fee, and you register your vehicle. Write this down, on the month of your birth. So the owner of the vehicle registers his vehicle every year on month of his birth. And this is what it looks like. This is what's kept in the glove compartment. And notice that the total due, okay, was only $43. Now, of course, this is 2009, so the vehicle is really, really old. So I'm not even sure when this picture was taken. Let's see if I can see it. I don't see the date. Well, it expires in 2009, so it's going to be taken back then. So now what you need to know with registration, I don't know if I have it on the next slide. How do we know how much we pay? Is it a flat fee for everybody? No, it's not. So this is what I want you to write down. Registration is based upon many things. More than anything, it's the year and the weight of your vehicle. Okay, so a newer car is going to cost more than an older car. The bigger the car, probably the more expensive. And what the vehicle is actually worth at the time. So like when you insure it. So sometimes it's going to be a little bit more because they don't do it for like, just a year. Sometimes it can go over to 14, 15, 16 months. So it could be a longer period of time, or it could be shorter. Like you register it, your month of birth is, let's say, June. So you're only going to be paying, for 6 months. Okay, so depending on when you go to register it, to when your birthday is. Say you buy it in June, but your birthday is in November. So it's going to go from June to November. That's what I meant to say. And you have to pay for your license plate. And that's around $38. If you want to get vanity plates, that's going to be a little bit more. So just remember that. Or you could just, if you sell a car and buy a new one, you're just going to keep your old license plate. That way you can always remember what the number is. So we talked about vehicles are registered on the month of birth of the owner. You have to go to the town or city clerk first and then go to the DMV. And sometimes the town clerk acts as an agent. Vanity plates are additional $40 on top of your regular registration. So what you do is you put down a list of what your choices for licenses or license plates. And then they will tell you if anybody else in the state has the same license plate. If they do, then they go down to your second or third choice. The other thing you need to remember, every vehicle that has a plate has to be registered. So motorcycles, mopeds, trailers, campers, snow machines. So anything that has a license plate has to be registered. And, I haven't mentioned this in some of my classes since we've had this COVID thing. And it just came to me when I saw the list of everything that's listed up here. And most of you probably don't know this. Ask this to your parents tonight. If you get arrested and convicted of drinking and driving, can you still operate your boat on Lake Winnipesaukee? Guess what? The answer is no. When you lose your license for drinking and driving, anything that has a license plate, anything that's a motor vehicle, you are forbidden to operate while that suspension on that drinking and driving conviction is in effect. And the converse can be said that if you get, do you know that there's a penalty for boating while intoxicated? That if you're, intoxicated while operating a boat, you not only lose your license to operate that boat, but you lose your driver's license. So most people don't realize that. Okay, it's in the books. It's in the books. I don't know why I haven't mentioned that to my other classes, but it just came to me. In vehicle inspection, the only thing I'm going to say here is that once a year, just when you get your car registered, after you register it has to go and get inspected. What we're trying to do is make sure that vehicles are in safe operating condition. And I'm not going to go through the whole list of what they do, but it's pretty thorough. And if at any point during the inspection they find something that's unsafe, you're going to have to get that fixed in order to get the vehicle legal to be on the road before it can pass. So make sure that you understand that not only are you going to have to pay for the inspection, but you're going to have to pay for repairs. So it could be kind of costly getting your car registered, then inspected, especially if it needs repairs. It can be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. And think about it. Most of you admitted that your parents have multiple cars in the driveway. So if you come from a household that's got 2 or 3 vehicles, you've got 2 or 3 registrations and inspections and any repairs that need to be done. It can be a very costly month. So be nice to your parents during their birth month, because they're putting out a lot of money in order for everybody to drive legal. I'm not going to go through all this. Just know that vehicle inspections are not set up by the state. It's by the repair shop. So go someplace that is reputable, someplace that you trust. Get a quote. They've got to tell you how much they're going to charge for it. If they're going to do any repairs, they've got to tell you first and what it's going to cost and get your okay. They just can't say you drop the vehicle off and when you come back they go, oh, you needed new tires, so we put 4 new tires on. It's going to cost you $600. You're going to go, I thought my inspection was $40. What do you mean it's going to be $640? Well, you needed tires, so we just assume you're going to, get them done. Well, that's the thing you got to realize. You do not have to get the work done there. Someone else can do it. Go to a tire shop. They could probably do it cheaper. And always ask for your parts back. Now, I know if it's, big parts you may not want to, but there are some dishonest people, and they could say that they replaced certain things, but they never did it. So by getting the old parts, you have some basic trust. You can match it up with your, part numbers on your car that they actually did the work. So just trying to save some money. Be smart. You don't want to be giving away that hard-earned money that you did all summer long. They're going to put a inspection sticker and registration sticker on your license plate. That's registration's on the license plate. Inspection goes into the window. And now it's on the bottom left-hand corner of your front windshield. So write that down in your notes. You should know that. Inspection is bottom left on the window. Registration is on your license plate. This is why police officers hang out at toll booths to see who's going through, because they're checking your license plate at the beginning of the month to see if you got your car registered when you're supposed to. They usually give you a couple days just in case, you forgot. They give you a warning. Don't fake it. Here's someone that probably didn't have enough money or didn't think his car was going to be able to pass, so he made up his own. I think you kind of know looking at it really quick. Doesn't look too legal to me. I think he's got to do better with the red paint. Maybe red construction paper would have been better. State of Vermont, wouldn't you know? So basically that's owning a vehicle, how to get your license, how to register it, what a title is, how to get your car inspected. So all these things hopefully will serve you well in getting your license. Now, what I want to do now is kind of flip over into covering what we left off with, which was speed. And I think I showed you that Jeff Gordon video right here. And I think I took some of the videos out. I thought I was further along. So I'm not really quite sure how far along we got here. But I do want you to write down a few things here before I show you the story, the video. What is a safe speed? What is considered safe speed? One that allows you to have complete control of the car. What I mean is that you're able to accelerate, brake, and turn, and keeping your car in a safe area. Anytime that you're going faster where you can't keep your car on the road meaning over the yellow line or white line, you're not stopping where you need to stop, then you are driving too fast. That is not a safe speed. Now, the last part of it is also, are you able to handle any emergency? Meaning, what would happen if the tire blows out? What would happen if a deer came out? If you're always driving and thinking about what could happen, you're going to probably say, stay safe at a good speed. It's the vehicle person that gets a little bit too cocky behind the wheel that they get a little bit out of control. What are some of the other factors that come into determining a safe speed? Are you on a curvy road, hilly road? Is it slippery? How well you can see? Darkness, rain, fog, snow, intersections, hills, curves, parked cars. Anything that's going to cause you to question about what is happening up ahead should call for slower speeds. So if you're not quite sure about situations, go slower. And then the same thing with heavy traffic, like on a highway. You may want to go faster, but there are too many people in front of you going slower in other lanes. So just kind of go with the flow, making sure you've got your 4 seconds, following distance, and you're going to be okay. It's the person that's jumping from lane to lane to lane that is going to stick out and get the speeding ticket. So don't stand out. Be like everybody else. I kind of like this thing that's in bold type here. The safest speed is the average speed. And I truly believe that, even if it's slightly above the speed limit. I think as long as everybody's going the same speed, no one's going to pull you over. You know, you got 8, 9 cars all doing the same thing. You're going 9 over the speed limit. They're going to probably leave you alone if you're on 95. It's the Yahoo that's going 20 miles above the speed limit, passing cars in and out. He's the one that's standing out. He's the one that's going to cause a problem for somebody slowing down, and then he can't stop. Now, of course, the state has to put the little asterisk here that says, provided that you don't go over the posted speed limit. Okay, of course, we want you to go the speed limit, but we know sometimes people don't. But you should know what it is. And by the way, you are going to get tested on all the speeds, so we're going to go over that in a minute. The condition of your vehicle, brakes, suspension, tires, your physical, mental condition. Are you tired? Do you have muscle aches, sprains? Are you emotionally stable enough to drive? Are you under the influence of drugs or alcohol? All these will determine what you should be doing for speed behind the wheel of the car. Now remember that speed limits are set up by the state, and they were ordered by the state legislature to enforce and to set up these. Now, we could change speed limits. We do it all the time. We could go up by 5 or 10. We go down by 5 or 10, depending on accident, crash rates. Whether we build the roads a little bit bigger, wider, we could probably allow for, like on the Spalding. Let me give you an example. Route 16, which we call the Spalding Turnpike, going from Portsmouth up to Rochester. It used to be 55, and this was probably about 10 years ago. It's not anymore. It's 65. So they decided we're just going to bump it up 10 miles per hour. So you can see that it's kind of arbitrary. It's the same road. They just want more people to access it and get to where they're going a little bit quicker. So they decided, well, we'll just change the speed. And that's somewhat common. I took this one out. I deleted this. Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, I got the next one. Hold on. Oh, red light cameras, just like speed cameras are like red light cameras, which means they're setting them up. This was photo enforcement. Here we go.
We've had this van for 2.5 years. They recently, at the beginning of August, just installed better cameras in the front and the rear. They're 12 megapixel cameras now. The old ones used to be 2 megapixels, so the images are way better. There's a lot of criteria that have to be met with the van. The speed limit signs have to say 45 miles an hour. and it's a $375 minimum fine. There have to be the speed photo enforcement signage out here as well that says that there's a photo van out here that's enforcing the speed. And then there has to be construction workers in the area. As you can see, the van is fully marked Illinois State Police photo enforcement van. There's no hiding about it. It's totally marked, okay? On the top there, it's a warning radar up on top. It's not the speed that's the enforcement speed, it's the warning speed. So if they don't see that sign, then they get hit with the other radar, which is the actual enforcement radar. It's not a standalone thing. We can't just set the van out here unmanned and just let it run by itself all day long. We still have to visually observe the vehicles traveling towards the van. With any type of radar system, the first thing we have to do is we have to make a visual observation of a vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed coming towards the van. We visually observe that, and we say, hey, that vehicle's traveling faster than it should be. The radar goes ahead and it confirms what our observations were. This one takes a picture of the face of the driver, the front of the car, tells the front camera in so many seconds it's going to be passing by. Shoot a picture of the rear of the vehicle so we can capture the license plate. We actually do a photo review. So what we do is when the company will send us back the images of the vehicles when we were out deploying, they'll actually send us the images back. And what we do is set 2 computers up. We have access to the digital photos on your Illinois driver's license, and we'll take that person's image with their registration information and compare it to the person driving the vehicle. If those 2 pictures match up, we say go ahead and approve the citation and send it out. If they don't match up, if it's somebody else driving the vehicle, we don't send the citations out.
So if the pictures do match up, then they send out the ticket. Now, an average police officer, when he pulls you over, walks up to your vehicle, asks you for your license and registration, looks at it, goes back to the cruiser, looks it up, writes out the ticket, comes back. It's going to probably take about 15, 20 minutes. Now, doing this, what this guy was doing, as quickly as the camera can take another picture, they're sending out another ticket. And then someone else through a computer system is sending it out through the mail. There is no personal contact with you at all. So they can throw out half of the tickets that they mail out because someone else is driving or they can't see who's driving. They're probably giving out over 100 tickets an hour. Easy. So be careful when you go to metropolitan areas because this is what they're doing because they can't afford to hire or have police officers just give out violations. In the state of New Hampshire, we have multiple ways of determining how fast someone is going. So I want you to write down laser, radar, aircraft. Now, laser is like perfect. I mean, it's pinpoint and it's multi-directional. Radar is a little bit more difficult. It's like the radar that we have on cars now, sensing when you're getting too close to something and the backup or the horn starts beeping when you get too close to something. And by aircraft, what they're doing is that they're timing your vehicle on the highway. So they're only watching people by aircraft on interstates, so on major highways. They're not doing 155 and 108 in Durham. They're not going to do aircraft for that. But down near the mall they can, or from Portsmouth to Boston they can. And what they do is they time your vehicle from point A to point B from a helicopter or an airplane, and they can calculate what your speed is. And then they radio down below to a cruiser, and then they write you out your ticket from what they saw from the aircraft. Now, let's take a look at laser. So this is going to show you how laser actually works.
Hi, I'm Bo Babkin. We're coming to you from the Cottonwood Heights Police Department in Utah. The next question is, how does a radar gun work, or how does radar work? There's 2 different types of radar in our world right now, and there are others, but the 2 I'll talk about is, one is regular radar, which is a frequency-based type of radar, and then we have LiDAR, which is laser, which is the acuity of a laser radar gun is pretty close to being perfect. I mean, you can, from many, many hundreds of feet, you can put a laser on the front of a license plate and measure how fast somebody's going. as opposed to the other one I talked about briefly before, and that's the regular radar or the frequency radar, where it sends out a frequency and it calculates how fast somebody's going. Sometimes, or most of the time, an officer will be standing stationary, and that machine will measure the speed of a vehicle and how fast it's going. There are other situations where we can measure the speed of a vehicle as well when a patrol car or a police car is going in one direction and a car is coming in the other direction. That machine that's being used is measuring the speed of the actual vehicle that's going to measure it and measuring the speed of the vehicle coming towards. So it's really quite a machine, and I know we don't have enough time to really explain all of it, but I know they work very well, one on frequency, one on laser beam, if you will.
So it's really not entrapment. They're not really trying to make you do something that you normally don't do. So when people say, oh, it's not fair that they're just around a corner or hiding in the bushes, they can do that. That's fine. I mean, they're not making you go 15 miles above the speed limit. Most people that have radar detectors or get caught for speeding, they just are in a hurry. They like to go fast, you know, and it's not fair to other people on the roadway that want not someone right on their back end because they're going the speed limit and they don't want to be pushed by someone that wants to go faster. So I do want you to know this for the midterm tomorrow. Okay, so in a school zone, we know by the fluorescent yellow sign that's warning you there's a school zone, it's 10 miles below the posted speed limit. So if it's 40, it's 30. If it's 35, it's 25. If it's 30, it's 20. But it's only 45 minutes before school opens and 45 minutes when school closes. Now, the unfortunate thing, because in Durham, they've got buses going all day long now, picking up and dropping off kids because it's half days and then someone else going to school. So if the flashing lights are on, you've got to go the school speed, even if you're questioning whether it's the opening or the ending of school. If the light's on right now, you got to go that speed limit. City, which is a business area, urban is business, that's 30 or lower, like Durham's 25. Rural or country areas would be 35, maybe up to 50. Highways are going to be 45. Now they're up to 65 or even 70 now up north. Okay, so it can go as high as 70. So just be familiar with that. All right. And in other states, look at that, 85 miles per hour on sections of 130 in Texas. So depending on the state that you're driving in, you're going to see a much, much faster speed limit. Not quite like the Autobahn that we have over in Europe, but okay, I'm not going to show that. High-speed driving, when you drive faster than other prevailing traffic, you're going to have to continue to pass other cars. So the faster you go, the harder it is to stop. There's more of a risk of a crash, and you're just building a habit. You're building a habit to always go faster. Slow driving is just as bad as going too fast. People are going to tailgate you. They're going to pass you when they shouldn't pass you. And it's against the law. Just like going too fast is against the law, so isn't driving too slow where you're holding up the traffic flow. I think I'm going to end it right there, and I'm going to show you the video. And rather than do Facebook, I think I'm going to try to find it on my phone and send you out the worksheet. So what I'm going to do right now is start the video, and I will send out questions that I want you to answer during the video, all right? So let me get to...
You notice there's a volume.
No, that's not it.
There's a volume here on the right.
Is that okay? Answer me if you're okay.
Fond du Lac County 911, where's your emergency?
That would have been an accident.
Okay.
We're on Beechnuts, just out of Camelsport.
Okay. Do you have a better crossroad at all?
Me.
Okay. And how many?
We got 9 girls here.
How many vehicles?
1 vehicle.
Is anybody injured?
We've got 9 people very injured.
Okay, what kind of injuries?
I don't know. I can't hear all of them. We've got smushed tire. I'm unsure how to tell.
Were you involved?
We do need help.
Okay, were you involved?
Please, thank you.
Ma'am?
I was invited to a sleepover with Uggs that were going to be on the soccer team. We ended up having a good time. First of all, we were painting nails, doing anything girls would do at a sleepover, when we decided that wanted to go get some food. So we left the house. It was probably around midnight when we left the house. We had also had some toilet paper that we were planning on going to TP with. We ended up at Taco Bell, having a great time. Probably one of the best sleepovers I'd been to, especially since it was a new group of girls that I hadn't known. After Taco Bell, we went to a few different houses, finally chose one that we wanted to TP. TP'd out of fun. Then after TPing, it was time to go home. We were finished. We were on our way back to Katie Berg's house.
I texted Katie. They were on their way home, and she said she told me, yes, got the job done, meaning they were TPing. And then within about 15-20 minutes, they weren't home yet, and all of a sudden we heard sirens because we don't live too far from the fire station. And then I woke Jim up and I said, the girls are not home yet. They were on their way home and I hear sirens. I need to try and get a hold of Katie. And I tried to get a hold of Katie and there was no answer. And that's when we started to panic. And we went outside and we heard more and more sirens. And then we went down to the fire station and they said there's been a horrific crash. And they were going to set up, and helicopters, Flight for Life was coming into the high school parking lot.
EMTs, we respond to scenes. We do not ask for this. We are forced into this situation. It affects everybody, not just the people involved. It affects everybody here on the fire scene, ambulance, police, and surrounding community. So every girl that was in that vehicle, we either knew or had either stayed at our house at least one time. So it could have been my daughter, could have been anybody's daughter. All these girls I knew. Some of the girls I couldn't even tell who they were that night with the blood.
I remember waking up in the field and I was looking around and I didn't really know what happened. And I tried to get up, but I couldn't. And then Carly came over to me and I asked her what happened. And she said that we were in a bad car accident. And then I asked her if she could stay by me and she said no, she had to go find the other girls. And then I passed out again. And then I just remember waking up to the EMTs and the ambulance lights.
It was dark and cold, and it was just it was scary. I didn't think anything was wrong. I was fine. I knew I was going to be okay. I was communicative, I was talkative, I was responsive. I didn't think anything was wrong at that point. I just figured everyone had a few injuries, no big deal. And then next thing I knew, I was watching these ambulances pull up and watching these EMTs pull up and pronouncing my friends dead.
Phone rang. It was about 5:23. Didn't have a clue what it was, who would be calling, call so early. Got up, picked up the phone, and it was Mrs. Berg, Bonnie Berg, calling, and she said the girls never made it home.
She was hysterical.
Yeah, I had the phone, but he could hear her hysterical voice through
To the receiver.
that I was holding.
I mean, I was in bed. I jumped out of bed, so you're 10, 15 feet away from me, and I could hear Bonnie through the receiver.
But she said, the girls never made it home. And I said, Bonnie, what do you mean the girls never made it home? They're sleeping over at your house. And then she said
She's talking about sirens and choppers
and she said they never made it home. They went out, they never made it home. And then, yeah, she's talking about, but I don't know how many times it says, Bonnie, slow down, calm down.
Bonnie, calm down.
Just so I could try to piece together what she was trying to tell me.
And you said, Bonnie, where do we go?
And that's where she says, I don't know. I don't know where anybody is. There's kids going down to Milwaukee. There's kids getting ambulance to Fond du Lac.
Well, that night, Sabrina's brother Nick took her to the gathering of the teammates. They were going to be teammates. They weren't all friends. Some of the girls, actually, that was the first night they met each other. She was excited because she was an underclassman, and the upperclassmen who were friends of her brother invited her to be part of this. So we all told her, you know, you should go. You know, they wanted you to be part of the team.
Yeah, she was excited to go. I mean, she thought it'd be
Right.
be an idea.
And then the next morning, we got notification because our two boys, Nathan and Nicholas, they had to be at a wrestling tournament, and they had to be up at the high school at 7 o'clock. And then they started texting and calling saying, get a hold of Sabrina right away. There's been an accident with all the soccer girls. So I tried calling her phone. I didn't know who to call because nobody had notified us at that point. Actually, nobody notified us at all that morning. I had to call around. I called hospitals. They couldn't give me anything because of HIPAA. I called Mr. Scannell because I had his number, and he's the one who told me his daughter, that Caitlin, had passed. So I didn't want to call any more parents because that is not what I wanted to hear, but I didn't know who to call.
At 7 o'clock that morning, I received a call from Sabrina's mom, and she knew that I was there. And she asked me if I knew anything about her daughter or how she was. My wife was also an EMT. She was here on the scene that night also. I knew she was dead. I couldn't tell her over the phone that her daughter was dead. The next day, my wife and I went there, and we apologized. We went to the Scannells. We went to all three of the girls that passed.
I remember that when we were traveling down the road, speed was increasing, and then as we had started to go up the hill, we took air, and I remember landing. We were all laughing and screaming, not out of fright, but out of fun. But then the vehicle did a little bounce, and there was dead silence because we swerved right, left, right, left, and hit the ditch and missed the telephone pole. So then we were continuing through the field at a high amount of speed, and I remember the first couple rolls. Then, since I hadn't been buckled, I remember the moment that I hit my head up on top of the roof of the vehicle, and I can still recall the sound exactly of the vehicle. But after that moment of hitting my head, I blacked out, and a while after I woke up on the ground, and nothing felt real. I didn't know what was going on, really. I literally felt like I was in a nightmare. It still is a nightmare.
Hello?
Hi there, Kylie?
Yes.
Hi there, this is the 911 center calling.
Do you know my location?
Okay, hold on. Yes, I have you on Beach Nut Drive?
Yes, Beach Nut Drive.
Okay, hold on one second. I've got officers and multiple ambulances responding, okay? Just
Awesome, that is thank you.
Okay, I need you to stay on the line with me for 1 second, okay?
Okay. Teresa, honey. Teresa, where are you going?
Okay.
Are you okay, Teresa? Teresa.
Okay, Kylie, you said there's 9 people injured, correct?
9 or 8, I can't remember right now. I think just 8.
Okay, is anybody pinned in?
I don't see anyone pinned in right now, but my car is pretty smushed.
Okay, is anybody unconscious?
One is not responding to me. The rest of them are awake.
And were you involved, or did you just come across it?
I was driving.
Okay.
Teresa, are you okay, honey?
You're all teenagers, or?
We're all teenagers, yes. I was driving too fast down the road, and I got us all into an accident. Here, I see the ambulance. I'm going to get it.
As a crash reconstructionist investigating this crash, we were able to determine the following. In the distance, you'll see the far hill, and then you'll see the closest hill to us, and then behind us is a third hill. So what happens is the vehicle comes over the hill in the distance at a high rate of speed. The road then comes down to the hill, it levels off for a short distance, and then you'll crest the small hill. Now, you're coming over the small hill, again, well in excess of the speed limit. You come down into this knoll where the bike trail is, and then you'll go up the third hill. And when they crest this third hill is where the problem happens. When they come over the small hill and they start to go down, the speed at which they're traveling, it creates the weight of the vehicle is going to come off the springs. So now you're going to lose a little steering. You come down into the hollow, if you will, is the best way I can describe it, or knoll. Now the weight on the vehicle is compressed onto the springs, and so when they come up the third hill, you have that little extra kick that takes the weight off the springs. And at that point, the vehicle, when I say airborne, I don't mean that the vehicle is 5, 10 feet, 15 in the air. What it does is it becomes airborne, and what I mean by that is the tires come off the roadway. And it could be 2 inches, it could be 5 inches, it could be 6 inches. But now the tires have lost contact with the road. So now you've lost all steering. And in essence, what happens is, if it's a matter of the driver just merely inputting a little bit of steering to the left, or if it was caused because the weight of the vehicle came up, now the tires are off, and with that weight, does it just enough turn her? And when the car lands back on the tires aren't straight, they're canted a little bit to the left, so now of course the vehicle wants to veer to the left. So at that point, the driver then tries to correct by input steering to the right. Well, she gets it corrected, but now there's a little overcorrection. Now she's got to steer it back to the left. And what happens is you get the serpentine effect. And what I mean by that is left, right, by steering back and forth. But once you lose it, you've lost it. And there's not much steering input that you're going to be able to correct it if you're going that fast. Slower speeds, you can correct it. Faster speeds, once you lose it, you've lost it. So after the vehicle is done serpentining, it now travels into the ditch. And prior to entering the field, there's a large stone. The passenger side of that vehicle strikes the stone. That in turn then causes the vehicle to pitch towards the driver's side. And at that point, it starts its roll over the 350 feet. And during that 350 feet is when occupants then are thrown from the vehicle.
Well, those little hills that you have on the roads that you can go over and it makes your stomach drop, that's what we were going for. And it just, I've been over them before at way slower speeds, and they still made my stomach drop.
Everything happened so fast, and nobody told the driver to slow down. We all had a chance to tell them to slow down, and we didn't. The fun was not worth any of this whatsoever.
I broke my back in 3 spots. I lost vision in my left eye. I broke both arms. I had severe lacerations to my head and brain damage.
I still will find myself sitting in class or trying to fall asleep. I'll wake up at 3 in the morning and I'll have flashbacks. And I can still hear the noise of the silence of us girls in the vehicle from when we knew it wasn't right. And I can still hear the sound of the crashing, of the rolling of the vehicle.
The cause of the crash was due to high speed. This was a dangerous road, and to mix the dangerous road with speed is not going to equal anything good. And because of that high speed, every second of my day, my heart aches for the rest of my life. And along with a lot of other people, and all because of one mistake of the high rate of speed. It just, forever, we have to suffer for one moment of what they thought or the driver thought was going to be a thrill, is now we have to suffer.
I don't call it an accident, I call it a crash, because going at such an excessive speed and having this crash occur, that was a deliberate, conscious choice of the driver to go that fast. She put her life, the driver, in jeopardy, and she put every passenger's life in jeopardy. It's just a miracle that there are 6 survivors from that crash, because the excessive speed,
And
all
that they can all
9
walk
of
and
them.
talk to them.
Yes, and that there's no, to me it's a miracle, because if you saw the vehicle, it was terribly, just every window blown out, tires gone. We saw the vehicle months later, because I had to see that vehicle and put my hand on the seat where my daughter took her last breaths.
There's images in my mind from that night that will never go away. They're in there forever. It is something you cannot fathom unless you see it.
As a deputy for 31 years and being involved in crash reconstruction, there seems to be a certain underlying factor in a lot of crashes, and that's speed. And if you're a passenger in a vehicle and you feel that that driver is going too fast, you need to, for your own safety, tell that driver to slow down. I guess my thought is that you have a choice. You can be a continuation of the problems that are on the highway, which is being aggressive, excessive speed, following too close, taking unnecessary risks, being inattentive. Or you can be part of the solution. Drive the speed limit, increase that following distance, be patient, and you have a choice, which you're going to choose.
That is a message I want parents to remind their children every time they walk out the door, to drive responsible. Speed kills.
You can never say it enough.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with repeating it.
And kids have to understand, our young adults have to understand, when they take that wheel, they are responsible for everybody in that vehicle.
There's just so much that can happen, and you could blow a tire out, you could lose a tie rod, brake, you could have something run out ahead of you, a farmer's dog, you could have a child. There's recreational trails that someone could be crossing. There could be another vehicle that's coming towards you and you're losing control, and it's never safe. And because of it, there's 3 lives lost, and there were several injured. And these were lives. This wasn't an event that happened. This was a speed, and you can't move on that easily. And you never get a second chance after that. There's not a second chance. There's one chance there, and it was taken the wrong way, and now as a result, that there's.
I guess we don't want anybody else to have to go through this either. It's like. I mean, things happen so fast with kids. I guess sometimes kids figure if they don't say nothing, things will be, maybe they didn't realize how fast she was going, but I mean, maybe someone would have said something, she might have slowed down, and all 9 girls would still be here instead of only 6.
And parents, you have to let your kids know that when they start driving, they are responsible for everyone in that vehicle. Whatever happens, whether it's an accident or not, they are responsible for the results of what happens.
Because we got 2 older sons, and we always tell them that. I mean, that's so tough because Sabrina didn't drive, so we just hope that when she was with somebody, well, that was the first time she was with older girls. We just kind of assumed every parent told their kids the same thing, Because, yeah, you're responsible for their safety.
And if your child feels that they're not in a safe situation, tell them to call home. Tell them to, give you a call to come pick them up, because I'd rather see them, and I'm sure you would rather see them be in a safe vehicle than having to get in a car that they don't feel safe in.
That car went 800 and some feet from the time it left the road. I think it rolled 5 times or 6 times. The speed thing is a major thing. We need to slow down. Kids need to slow down. Like I said, maybe kids should see some of these pictures of these kids that are killed rather than hiding it from them. Maybe if you'd see the blood, maybe if you'd see the head that was split open, maybe if you'd see some of this stuff, you guys would remember what the heck's going on. But they don't have a clue. They forget. They think they're invincible. They think that nothing's going to happen to them.
I am very fortunate that I am still here, but speed does kill. Clearly, it is seen that I don't have 3 great friends of mine, and I never will have them back, and I would do anything to have them back in a heartbeat, but speed kills. If I could turn the clock back, I would in a heartbeat. Wouldn't be an option. I would do anything to have those 3 girls back here with me. Do anything to not have to go through what I do on a daily basis, and to not have seen what I saw, and I would turn the clock back if I could and say something, slow down, anything.
After going through this experience, I think it's important for people to follow the speed limits because there's a reason they're there, and it's for your safety. And if you ever are going above the speed limit where you're uncomfortable, or somebody else is, that you should really just tell them to stop before anything bad happens where you can't go back.
Don't be scared to speak up. It doesn't make you a wimp. It doesn't make you a bad kid for saying slow down. It would have saved some lives if I would have done it. And I would give anything, like I said, to go back and say slow down, please.
I love taking pictures, and my daughter Katie loved being in them, so the 2 of us together, it was a lot of fun. And this picture frame here represents all the pictures that Katie will never be in as a result of the high-speed crash. This would have been a picture of her with her friends playing soccer, and a picture of her at her junior prom, and a picture of her doing a powder puff game in school with the girls, and a picture of her graduating her senior year, and a picture of us going with her to different colleges, looking at where she's going to go, and a picture of us going to Germany to see her brother over there, vacation. There's so many pictures that are not here that would have been if it wasn't because of this speed that killed her.
We were just all having fun and didn't think anything bad was going to happen. Nobody ever thinks anything bad's going to happen.
This is a difficult case. You've got the lives of 3 promising young women that are gone. You can't bring them back. It was just a horrific scene with these girls, one dead, some dying, all or most very seriously injured. I really don't care a whole lot whose idea it was or whether they were egging her on to do that. I just don't give anybody a break for peer pressure. I never have. The bottom line is whether it was her idea or one of the other girls or whatever, she was driving the car. She was responsible for the safety of the other girls.
That night, it was just a bunch of girls having fun. We were at Katie's house, and we were painting each other's nails, and then we decided to go to Taco Bell, and then we TP'd a friend's house, and I just remember everyone having a blast and having a smile on their face, and we couldn't stop laughing. And even in the car up to the last second, I just remember hearing laughs.
We're all teenagers, yes. I was driving too fast down the road and I got us all into an accident.
Okay, that was a pretty moving video. I hope that you got something out of it. Of all the conferences that I've gone to, this is by far the best video that I've seen based around speed and young people. They weren't bad people. They were out having a good time, but you can see that it really turned for the worse. And I sent everybody out some questions that I want you to answer about this video. So please take the time, the remainder of tonight, or sometime tomorrow before we have class. I want you to fill that sheet out and tell me what you thought about the video, because there is nothing more than teenagers going too fast or distracted that are causing injury and death to young people. Those are the two main reasons we're having crashes: speed and distraction. So this covers the speed section. We'll do distraction a little bit later on the second half of class. I still have an opening tomorrow at 4 o'clock, so if anybody wants to drive, just drop me a note later tonight or tomorrow. And I would like everyone to study hard tomorrow for the midterm. So we're going to take the first half to talk about tips on becoming a better driver with parking. And then we're going to take the last half of class. We won't be going as long as we did tonight. This is one of the longer classes because of that video. Then we'll do the midterm, all right? And the midterm shouldn't take you too long, but I do want you to take time and do it on your own. Don't use the book. I want to see what you know, and then we'll go from there. So that's it for tonight. We'll see some of you tomorrow because we do have you scheduled to drive. But please, 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 be proactive in opening up your schedule to drive, okay? Because I don't want this to back up. All right? So have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Study hard for the midterm.